Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday night. We are back. We are ready to have fun with you tonight, and we're going to talk about things.
Penguins.
And penguins? Well, maybe.
Was that the topic?
I thought it was.
Great. I studied.
Well, you can't ask me, because when you did bring up the actual topic of what we are going to talk about tonight, I had no idea what John was talking about. Dan had to translate. So I can't help you guys at all.
No penguins.
And if it's any consolation, I actually just copied and pasted what you said the first time.
Literally copy and pasted what I said before. And so, but no, we're going to talk about something that kind of came to my mind and discussed it with John, and he brought up some points of people that he's seen, and then I brought it to another friend of mine named John, and he said the same thing. And I think it's a good thing to talk about, because I know I'm dead set in the middle of all of this. You guys might be a little bit more set in what you do, but I'm kind of taking a look, and tonight it's about, the title is Gut Check. Basically, why are you DJing? And we've looked at people. And I don't want to jump right into this. I want to we can take our time. I'm sorry. I just kind of, because it's something, I've literally been working on my business plan for second half of this year and the next year about this stuff we're talking about tonight.
Nice.
So I've been overthinking everything, and it's about why we do. No, you have no idea. My overthinking is someone else's thesis. Okay. Keep that in mind. I have so many quotes. I've watched videos on this. I've read articles about this. And it's about why we DJ, but I'm going to get into some really deep stuff, and you guys can do whatever you want. But that's kind of what we're talking about tonight. So
before we get into
I hope there's questions. Too.
Before we get into the motivation of the DJ thing, we're going to hit a couple of things, and I actually want to start on the physical fitness side a little bit, Dan, because you spent some time hitting the treadmill this winter and spring, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's talk about next week. Then we'll come back and we'll get into tonight's topic. Next week, if you have been anywhere, you've probably heard that there's this thing in Atlantic City going on next. Is it next week or the week after?
Oh, we got 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so we got 2 weeks. Atlantic City is going to be coming up, and I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it, but Howie and the crew have put together kind of a cool little event on Tuesday night once again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to have this.
Can we talk about anything? Like Howie sent me a call or called me today and filled me in on some things. Are we allowed to talk about any of that yet?
I want John first to pronounce the name of the venue.
It's beret, as in very similar to the berets. It's spelled differently.
Sure that it wasn't a karaoke type thing.
Yeah, karaoke. Yeah, karaoke. Okay, fine.
Sorry,
I'm just gonna make fun of me. But the Tuesday night at 8:00 in Atlantic City, that will be August 10th. The crew will be there at the Beret Club, which is right next to the Irish pub. It's kind of across the parking area there. So if you'll be on the boardwalk, you just walk down to it. It's not that far of a walk. It takes a few minutes to get there. And they've got one of the cool things that they're going to be introducing actually on Howie. We're going to leave this one for you to talk about. You're going to have to tune in after our show. Go to DJNTV.com/chill after we're done tonight. And Howie's going to be introducing or making an announcement on one of the cool things. If you're one of the first people there, you're going to be getting something there. And Howie will be talking about that and other things that they're planning. So really excited, and it's coming together because I've been putting a great amount of time into it, and it should be a fun night. So I want to make sure people check that out. We'll be getting, later this week, we'll be sending out more information on the event and sponsors and what's going to be all happening. But Howie will be kind of giving you guys the scoop in the next show at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. Beret.
Nice.
Beret.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's about a 10-minute walk at most.
Something like that.
If you walk really slow, it might be 15. If you walk really fast, it might be like 5.
Yeah. But how variated your stagger is, right?
Well, it might be one speed getting there and another speed coming back. That's another issue for another
there's probably
time.
Funnel cakes or something between here and there, and that's always a slowdown.
But the nice thing is you basically get down to the alley, for lack of better terms, or the turn back, like you go for the Irish pub, but then you just keep walking. So as John said, it's across the parking area, but it's like behind the Irish pub. Just for everybody to come join us. And from what I understand, I've been seeing some of the schedules and stuff like that, and some of the talk, like Tuesday night, you're going to be looking for something to do. You can't use the excuse, well, I'm going to go over to this party. This is the party. This is the party.
Should be a great night to hang out and talk shop with DJs from literally around the world. We'll be there that night, so it'll be kind of a fun night. Okay, so motivation. This is something I think that a lot of people, especially in 2020, got to that point after we had been away from shows for a little while of really starting to reevaluate their motivation for performing and their motivation to continue to do what we have done forever. We always thought we had this occupation that was recession-proof. Everyone else was losing jobs, losing that, but people still wanted to go party. They still wanted to do things.
Whoever said that it was recession-proof? I've always said our job is non-essential before people use the word non-essential.
Oh, yeah, we were definitely, but we never have. 2008 didn't slow down. We didn't. Our schedules didn't slow down. Prior to, we've never had a slowdown. We've never had a work stoppage within our industry. Yeah, we may lose an event here or there, or a bar might not pick up a contract, what have you. But it wasn't until 2020 that it was like oh, wow, there's no way I can even pick up a $50 karaoke gig on a Friday night type of thing.
First out the door, last back in.
That was really the reality of this situation. That's for sure. So I think for a lot of people that was a harsh evaluation time. And we'll get into DJ and the motivation of DJ, but physical fitness became something. And Mike Walter early on in it basically said there's going to be two outcomes from this. DJs are going to come out of this and they're going to basically be a chunk or a hunk. They're going to either exercise and use this time to improve themselves, or they're going to basically wallow and eat chocolate bonbons, and they're pretty good.
I don't know if I've ever had a bonbon. Maybe I will have to try that.
That was the
on a cheat day.
That was my Married with Children.
Oh, that's
there.
right.
Yeah,
what did he have? The chicken.
Oh, I don't know what, but that was what
anyway,
Peggy
sorry.
Bundy. Yeah, she had the bond. Yeah, it was that. And did they stereotypical?
I squirreled a moment there.
What happens once in a while. So the physical fitness side. This is something that it didn't really, for my personal self, I didn't jump into this in 2020. But Dan, you spent a little bit of time getting yourself working on the treadmill and doing different things. Let's kind of start from the beginning. What was the motivation to even make that step?
Well, I've always kind of been in this kind of fluctuation. So I come from a family that has been heavy set both sides. I mean, part of it was the eating habits that my father's generation was just horrendous. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of had that battle that I've had to deal with. And so I would lose some and then I would gain it back, and then I would lose some and I'd gain it back. And so what caused me to kind of go into my more recent decision to get on the elliptical was just the desire to try and fit better in my suit. I mean, that was one of the things where, we hadn't been wearing anything for a while, and I put it on and I went, ooh, like I'm fitting, but that's a little snug there. Mm-hmm. And so it was just one of those things where I kind of was like, okay, I've not been really taking this serious. And when I actually got on the scale, I noticed I was a little bit, it was only 10 pounds, but it was 10 pounds more than what I thought I was at. And so it was just kind of like, oh, well, that explains why it was a little snug in certain spots. So it was one of those things I just wanted to get into the habit of dropping some. And then I had a goal of going farther. I didn't. I kind of plateaued there for a bit and have kind of gone back the other way a little bit just recently. I will say this. For a lot of people, they lose weight in the summer and gain it in the winter. I'm the flip of that. Mm-hmm. I will gain it in summer and lose it more and lose it in winter. And I think it's the teaching thing.
I would imagine it being on a more consistent schedule. MJ, now you spend time on your physical fitness. You spend time on a treadmill. What's the motivation behind that for you?
It's actually pretty simple, and again, 2020. I said this before, fit me very well. I have a treadmill in the house. I have a stationary bike in the house. I have weights in the house, and I actually lost 3 pounds over the whole thing. But more for me was just I was continually doing what I had done before. But my motivation is pretty simple. Nobody knows how long they have to live. Okay, I had a brother that died at 33. My dad died at 57. His dad was almost 90. So you don't know. So whatever life I have left, I want to be able to move and go do things. If I go on a vacation, I want to be able to walk and see scenery. And that's why I do this, just to keep myself so that as long as I'm alive, if it's another 30 years or if it's 30 minutes, I'm going to be able to be mobile and move around and be active. That's my goal. that's kind of my motivation. Is I always tell people I'm chasing the old away. That's my goal, is to chase the old away.
I like that. I like that.
I'm never going to be the athlete I was when I was younger, but I'm also not going to be. My father just did not take care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he had ridiculously high blood pressure. He knew he had ridiculously high cholesterol, and did nothing about it. He just lived life, and it caught up really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just whatever time I have, I want to try to be able to move, and I enjoy moving and doing things, and that's always been my motivation. Is I don't want to slow down.
Sure.
We talked about this before, retirement. I don't want to retire even. I want to move more.
keep on it.
So that was it. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you've had people in your life that are of bad health,
mm-hmm.
you really tend to value, you value that ability to get up and walk, or the ability to get down on the floor and get back up easily without, that kind of stuff,
There is that. The health and observing family, I think, was definitely part of that motivation. As I'm seeing, Lori's parents and how they're getting into their 90s now, and the bodies are just and it's kind of wearing out, but it's also not maintaining. Trying to keeping active. And my parents, who are younger than that, and they're having health problems, and it really kind of. In 2020, it was like, okay, it was one of those things, I should do something. In 2016, I spent the summer, it just so happened that Pokemon Go came out that summer. But I mean, I spent, in that fall, just as I was going through the eye surgeries, I really had nothing, I could do nothing else besides walk, because I couldn't see to work and do things as I had in the past. So I did put a lot of time in. But it wasn't never a consistent, intentional amount of time. It was like, I'm going to go for a walk, and just and then I would be done. So that was there in the background. I don't want to be like my parents, as MJ, what you were saying. Then there was a part a few years back. My old high school track coach, who was always out walking and such, he had a massive heart attack, and he would have, if he wouldn't have been as in good of shape as he was from his daily walks, he would have died. But because he was in very good, excellent shape, he wasn't overweight per se, maybe carrying a few extra pounds. But that was another eye opener. That it was like, he does something every day, whether it's going for a walk to town, which is about a 5-mile round trip type of thing, or he's doing something. It really became something that, okay, I need to do something intentionally and have a dedicated to a certain amount of time or a program or something that I'm not going to blow off and all of a sudden it's a week later. So January 1st, my goal was to go and start exercising and doing something for 30 minutes minimum each day. And since January 1st, I think I probably have missed it maybe 4 times. As far as it's been maybe 15 minutes because I just didn't have enough time. Otherwise, it's been doing, anywhere from 35 minutes of exercise a day to, well, in New York, it was 20 miles a day. But, that's whatever it was. But that motivation to be able to not be was the initial part of it. But then I got into the point where we're doing DJing, a couple of the early DJ shows. Again, I really hadn't done much for DJ in 2020, so I've been going back to compare it to 2019. I found out that my legs weren't as sore, my back didn't hurt. I was bouncing around a lot more, and I could actually felt like there was a different energy level. And it's like, holy cats, so it's one of those things I made that commitment to, and it carried me for about 3 months. And at the end of March, it was starting to kind of drag. And then we had a show. We did a wedding, and it's like, that was really cool. That became a motivating factor that, yes, I want to continue that. And then as we continued a few weeks and didn't have a show, and it was starting to wane a little bit, that motivation was, and then we had another one. And it's like, wow, I was standing on a gym floor for 6 hours and my legs don't feel like mud. It became something that just kind of evolved. And then I hit, probably it would have been June 1st. And now it's just become this habit that you get to a point. I mean, we get done here, and I'm going to go out and I did my walking earlier today, did all that stuff, and now I'm going to go out and jog until I fall over. It's going to be great. And then I'll post a picture of me laying in the ditch, gasping for air. But that's, it's one of those things I wouldn't have even thought about doing something. I wouldn't have even gone for the walk after we were done. It would have been basically go in and, grab a toothbrush and go to bed type of thing.
I thought he was going to say he's going to grab a cheeseburger and go to bed.
I was actually thinking going to grab an ice cream sandwich, but I haven't had that either for a long time. But that idea is just how it changed. So the motivation in that process changed. And I think that can happen in pretty much everything we do, along with our performing.
Mike Walter, I've seen him quoted a couple different times in reference to this, and I don't remember where it was that he said it. Maybe it was Arms in Tennessee or something like that. But basically, the idea of whatever shape you're in at 40 is where you're going to be. And it wasn't that was necessarily the case, but it seems that after 40, it becomes a lot harder to try and turn that corner again, to go back and decide that I'm going to change how I had been. And I would say that may have been true at one point, but I really think that as, we see that our lives are kind of a lot different than they used to be, that if you're like, well, I'm past 40, I guess heck with it now, I can't do anything. That getting into that, exactly as MJ's saying, getting into that mode is going to be better than anything you could be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry if you're 44 or if you're 54 or whatever. Get out there and move. Yeah, you might not be going out and doing a 5K, but you're moving, and that's going to help everything else in the long run.
Here's another family story. This is also part of my motivation. My grandfather was healthy his whole life. I saw a picture. He was never an athlete, but I saw a picture of him when he was retired. After he had retired, he was mowing the lawn in like a muscle shirt, and you could have swore it was a younger man.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy was 65 and up. Lived to be 80, almost 88. Was active his whole life, doing things, gardening, farm work, whatever. Again, he wasn't an athlete. And then about 85, my grandmother and the doctor said they thought he was a little old to be out in the sun and out in the hayfield and all that. And they stopped him from doing that. And I watched him within 2 years go downhill and pass away. So that was one of my things. It doesn't matter what your thing is. If it's walking, hiking, gardening, whatever, do your thing. You may never be able to do it like you did when you were 20, but keep doing it. Don't stop. I can honestly tell you that I had that give up mindset around 40. I had some bad things that happened, and I just gave up. I gained 50 or 60 pounds and just quit everything. Just my blood pressure was through the roof, and here I am now, more than a decade later, 40, 50 pounds lighter. I just got my blood pressure checked about a month ago, and it was like 122 over 81 or something like that, which is right where it's actually pretty good for someone my age.
Sure.
But that's the key. Don't ever let anything stop you. If I hear one more, I post the pictures of me doing the stuff I do online every once in a while, and every time somebody posts back, "You're gonna break your hip, old man." You will break your hip if you don't do stuff, because that's what moving does. Is it compresses your bones and makes them stronger, and that's what you need to do. Just keep doing whatever it is you do. If you like. Thing for me back on the farm, we just called it walking around, but now they call it hiking, and I'm out there for walking non-stop for like 2.5 hours, burning like 1,800 calories at a time, and going, holy crap, I'm doing this at this age. I mean, like I could be stranded somewhere, and I could be like, oh, I can get home. Where before it'd be like, oh, I got to take an Uber 3 blocks.
It's a half
mile,
man.
Now I'm like on the other side of the city going, I can walk a bit like that. Think of whatever age you are. What are you going to be like in 10 years if you don't do something now? And find some people that are 10 years older than you and ask them what they can do.
Let's chat here. Yeah, that 40, that statement of 40, of course, I've heard Mike mention that a couple of different times in his presentations. And that was always one of those little things in the back, and you always thought, okay, so I got to make sure that, when I heard it before I was 40, it's like, okay, so I know I need to be, doing some things before I get to that point. And then that just went right on by. And now it's like, okay, even though, whatever condition I was in at 40 has no bearing to a point what I'm doing today. But it is one of those things that probably the most frustrating is that if I would have spent 6 months, in essence, training and getting ready in my 20s or 30s, I would be running multiple miles today. It's a patience thing.
When I was in my 20s, I was doing multiple miles in the 7-minute range.
Mm-hmm.
And last summer, I was happy that I did 2 consecutive 9-minute miles.
Yeah.
I was happy about the fact that I was able to hold that pace for 2 miles, and I'm like, I worked so hard to get to that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's you're not going to be what you were. I'm telling you that much now. Don't let that get you down. No joke, I once jumped a shopping cart lengthwise. That's what kind of shape I was in, able to run and jump lengthwise a shopping cart. You might ask me to push 2 shopping carts. I'm like, I'm not pushing 2 of them. Or put too much in a shopping cart. I'm like, that's enough shopping for today.
Yeah, exactly.
But just don't, whatever it is, your thing is, find it and don't stop. That's the key. Don't let someone tell you shouldn't. Make time for it. I'm telling you, I talk about this in my book a little bit, and it's again my research that I told you I've been doing lately with all these things, that it is more than your physical health that you are repairing by doing this stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Emotional, it's mental, it's relaxation. That's one of the things that when I go on my hikes, I come back and I feel more centered. It's not because I've walked, it's just because I've just emptied my brain of all the stuff that's around me all the time and just walked, And
I think that by emptying the brain, for lack of a better way to describe it, that helps you have that more optimistic view of when we turn into our occupation of DJ and performing. Is that I think it's too easy, especially after a year like last year, that there's these things that can just beat a person down. And if you're not, keeping that optimistic view and dealing with the problems or letting the problems of the world wash away as you go for a walk, however you want to describe it, it can get a person down. And, to a point, almost no amount of motivation is going to be able to help you.
Yeah, there's so much with this. I could talk forever, and like I said, the book that I'm putting out, and I'm actually talking, again, this goes on right into what we're talking about tonight about changes and different things that you're doing differently in your motivation. And one of my things that I'm working on with the my business plan, like I said, is that I'm looking into expanding what I do like this beyond DJing when the book comes out. I want to have some motivational encouragement videos that I'm doing for people to encourage them to keep going. I'm not an old man with a whole lot of wisdom, but I've been through a few things, and I understand, I have a different view than a lot of people, and I press through stuff that other people haven't, stuff that I'm still pressing through, that I'll be pushing on through the rest of my life. But that's a change in what I plan on doing with some of my future is that I'm not leaving the DJ world. It's still going to be my income, but I want to expand. I want to take these other things that I have here close to me and hand that out like I hand the information out that virtual DJ is the best software in the whole world and not the stuff that begins with an M.
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
So he was just thirsty. That's all.
Oh yeah, he had the sticker at a cup, so he had to show it.
The one thing that I would also add to it is, as far as sometimes one of the things that also gets in I don't have time to do all this kind of things. Like I have so many things that I want to do. I don't have time to fit everything in. And MJ said, you're going to make time for the things that are important. Or basically was what he was getting at with that. But I would also add for when I'm going for my walks, when I'm doing something where I'm out, I don't like just doing it in silence. Now, for some people, and you guys, you talked about the brain dump, and so for some aspects, maybe you want that, but for others, it's a great opportunity to stream. You could be streaming mixes of other people. You could be streaming, DJNTV content. Maybe there's seminars that you've gone to and you've recorded the audio, and you're like, I'm going to listen to that. And it's been like 3 years, and you're like, I'm never touching it. Here's an opportunity for you to be able to tune into that stuff, to be able to, to get it. And I would say I use this, and I even talked about this back when I wrote for the paper. I talked about doing this in the car. Like you have a long car ride, listening to them back and forth. And I had all of Alan Berg's like seminars on MP3, like on MP3 CDs, and I listened to them that way. And so it was one of those things where you're like, well, I don't have anything to take notes with. If you're listening to this stuff enough times, it ingrains it in your head, and you don't have to then be taking meticulous notes because you start to absorb it and it becomes more of your way of thinking. So it'd be one of those things that, maybe you stream it once, maybe you stream it 5 times, but it's still something that you can be doing. You can be taking care of yourself and taking care of your business at the same time.
I have a streaming playlist when I hike, and it's nothing like you guys would ever think that I would listen to streaming. If you guys are old enough to remember the TV show Grizzly Adams.
I know of it.
know of it. The theme song on there is what starts my playlist on YouTube sometimes, and I let it go out. And it was just an acoustic song. So a lot of the stuff I hike to is acoustic music. So again, it is my thing. Find what your thing is. Your thing could be silence, your thing could be podcast, your thing could be anything, audio books. But find yours. And like Dan said, it's tough to fit stuff in. It really is. I've always said in life, you can achieve anything you want, but it is going to cost you. You are going to have to put some stuff off the table. So one of the easiest things I think to put off the table is how much television do you watch a day? Take one of those hours away if you watch more than 1 hour. And there's nothing wrong with watching TV. Trust me, I do it all the time. But start with something simple like that isn't going to cost you. Don't take away from your kids. Don't take away from your spouse. Don't take away from any of that kind of stuff. But start with something that truly isn't necessary. And just take that 1 hour and see how you feel about that 1 hour. It's my thing, I guess. I don't know.
I'm going to give up showering.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be ready for AC. Just you wait.
Overrated.
What?
Just make sure you. But it really, kind of an area, what makes a person get up in the morning? What gives a person the excitement to tackle the day type of things? That really, I think, is one of those things that it's not like you can have the same motivation, the same things driving you each and every day or each and every season of life. I think that changes. When we back in the early 2000s when we started doing DJ conventions and before the Disc Jockey News started and early in that, the question was why are you doing? Because I was going and doing DJ meetups around the 5-state area. So I was traveling 3, 4, or 5 hours one direction at times to put these events on, costing money to do them, but that's what I was doing. And the answer really to that is that my goal was to make the DJ industry a better place so that if my children decided at some point in time to get into it, that it would be a spot where they could come in and it would be respected. Maybe not to the level super high respected, but I mean, I wanted to try to get us a little bit above the used cars salesman level. Yeah. And it would be something that they could do if they enjoyed it and make a living, make an income with that could support themselves. That was really the motivating factor for a lot of those early things that we were doing. And that, it wasn't because of, wanting to be famous, or it wasn't because I wanted to, talk on stage, or, it wasn't because I wanted to buy food for everybody, which we did at those. It just was the idea of trying to make things better for that. And that evolved into the motivation with the Disc Jockey News, is that we found as we were having these meetups and people were getting together and they were learning a little bit, they became better business people. And we would bring speakers in and they became better business people. And it's like, well, can we take that nationally? Can we take a resource and get it into the hands of DJs so that every month they would have something that they could improve themselves with? Hence, we started delivering the newspaper back in 2004, before this thing called Facebook started up and changed that, and YouTube changed our worlds, really. But the motivation changed. It was now, instead of just trying to make it a brighter day for my children and the next generation, it was now, can we help this generation and help people build their businesses and grow? It's just, things evolve. And I think that what motivated you yesterday may not be what are going to motivate you tomorrow. And I think that's okay.
Absolutely. That old saying is, what got you here today will not necessarily take you to tomorrow. And that's beyond motivation. That's skills, everything. Life moves forward whether you want to or not. I've always said that. You can't get hung up on the past, because trust me, where you're at now, if you're still hung up there, this here is going to keep moving forward. So try to do your best to keep up. And you're going to have seasons where you do well, seasons where you don't do well, seasons where you break even. Again, this is all stuff that I'm excited that in the future I get to talk a little bit about. But I will tell you firsthand, on your good days and your bad days as a DJ, don't let them define your worth, because your worth is not your best day of DJing or your worst day of DJing. Your worth is you and what you do, and you work hard at it, and that's your worth. It's not the best day that you've had or the worst day that you've had either, because a lot of people will hang their worth off of this festival I did, or this wedding I did, or this whatever, and other people will be like, oh, I stink because of this. I did 2 of these jobs, I did terrible, and it's not the reality of it. So
Yeah, and that's great advice there, MJ. That because we can be riding that roller coaster so much where, oh my God, I'm the greatest DJ ever because they all said, and then
hashtag killing it, hashtag killed it,
it
are so close together.
And then the next night is I'm so bad. Mom said I should have been a doctor. I guess she was right.
And if you feel you're the only person that has questioned your choice of becoming a DJ, you are not the only person that's questioned that.
Yeah, I think most of us have, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that's the first key to a lot of this is don't beat yourself up. And if you have found different motivation, which that's the thing that John and I talked about in all this, was that we've found some people who have a day job and DJ on the weekends, and some of them are thinking about not DJing, or at least not DJing as much, to spend time with their families on the weekend, because during the lockdown, that's what they started doing, and they're like, well, this is actually kind of nice to have time off. And not go, oh, it's Friday, I come off work and I have to get ready for tomorrow, I have the wedding tomorrow. You get to look at things a little differently, and that's why I think it's so big for me that I'm looking at all this going, my whole life I've chased fame and fortune, and I realized at the beginning of COVID that it wasn't actually my motivating factor. My motivating factor was being creative and looking for that next opportunity to be creative. And when it took me out of the mindset of I've got to be famous, I've got to do the best, I got to be well known across the entire nation, across the world, blah, blah, blah. When I took that away and went, I just have a lot of great opportunities to be creative, it makes things fun. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can say it. I had a gig Saturday night that was really difficult. It was a big club, 99% hip-hop music. It was hard work for me to work this crowd, but thinking about it more on the lines that I'm getting to be creative on a canvas that I've never been creative on before, with colors that I've never used before, and it turned out to be kind of empowering in a way, like I didn't know I could do that sort of thing, and collected a paycheck.
But I think you just hit on something there with what you said, where we have this impression of what our motivation may be, whether it's because you've always kind of thought that way, or maybe somebody's kind of, oh well, that's got to be your motivation. I think you don't truly feel the happiness that comes from what you're doing until you strip away and find what is that real motivation. When you're kind of bouncing around with different ideas, you're always constantly potentially chasing something, and even if you attain whatever that motivation was or whatever that goal was, you don't have that happiness with it that you do otherwise. And so having that right frame of mind, that right motivation, as you will, to go into it makes a big difference. And I also, one of the other things we were saying, your motivation, feel free to let it change, not because you've hit a goal, not because anything, but we as humans are constantly changing. Yeah. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. I don't care who you are, what you're doing now and what you were doing then. You are not the same person. Something about you has changed. And so it's very likely that some of those motivating factors can also change. 15 years ago, I didn't have either of my two boys. And so how I looked at DJing and how I looked at it was completely different than the direction that I go now, and how and the eyes that I look at with my events. All that's different once you have something about yourself in a new perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I think that perspective, as it evolves and changes, is huge. Definitely huge. MJ, it looks like you were about to hit that too.
Yeah, I was just giving Dan a total thumbs up on that, because I in my side of the business, I deal with a lot of 20-somethings, and a bad day can really mean a lot to them. Like I've literally seen DJs cry over getting fired from a club, into where I've seen places that I told one place I didn't like the manager. I said, I'm not quitting, but my schedule's full. Call me when you get a new manager. And we did. And that's just the way it works out. But your mindset when you are in your 20s will not be what your mindset is in your 30s. And when you're in your 30s, your mindset will not be, I think there's a more drastic change 20 to 30 than there is 30 to 40. But you hit that midlife, and all that is you reassessing, what have I done? What's important to me? That's all it becomes. It's not that I need to do something different. Is you just kind of have to remember why you started doing something, and is that really what keeps you doing it? It could be money. You could be like, hey, I need some extra money. There's nothing wrong with that as a motivation, but as long as you make sure you realize that that's your motivation and not trick yourself into something else and then realize it's all about the money, because that is a motivational factor that can be very empty once you've gone around that merry-go-round.
Oh yeah, certainly.
It's tough. People work years at a job just for a paycheck, and they get to the end of their life and it doesn't mean much to them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else around that. We all have to make money. Again, I'm not saying you don't have to make money. You have to. But if you are in a place where you can check your motivation and make changes, do it. Most people are not. Most people have families and kids and all kinds of stuff they need to take care of. You have to take care of that. But if you can change that over the next 10 years, let's say, oh, my kids are going to be 18 in 10 years. What are you going to do in 10 years? We're back to that 10-year thing. Do you want to try something in 10 years? Mm-hmm. Set yourself up to try that. Don't just start then. Toy around with it. Look into it. Like Dan, going to the expo, the seminars, that alone is something that, in itself can prepare you 10 years down. That information that Dan's learning next week or 2 weeks from now, it's not going to go away in a half an hour. It's going to be there. So accumulate it, use it. I'm sorry I'm getting a little
preachy.
Zen out there.
Okay, there you go.
I'm just like I said, it's been something that I've been studying on lately.
Oh yeah.
My business plan came from 2 paragraphs to now it's 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot in there looking at why I'm doing what I'm doing, what made me happy about 2020, why was I so much enjoying that life in 2020. And there were a lot of little things in there. One of them was the fact that, even though it was the government's money, I had a steady, predictable income was the word I used, with the government money, even though it was very small at times. I looked at that and went, maybe I should get a small side job to help a little bit here and there. And maybe that would help that constant rise and fall that we have money-wise in our business, because we are feast and famine business.
Yeah.
That's all there is to, especially right now as people are wanting to get married that they haven't been able to get married for 2-3 years, So it's just my way of looking at this, and you have to find yours. I'm looking at going, okay, maybe it's okay. I can identify as someone who's not just a DJ, or before it was I hashtag full-time DJ all the time. I lived by that. I don't have to do that.
Now it's gonna be hashtag Walmart greeter. Okay.
But
I'm sure they have better jobs for me than greeting.
Yeah.
I got enough strength. I can carry. I'm a grunt. I may be a grunt worker.
Yeah.
Stock boy.
Yeah, thank you. You can call me anything, boy, is fine.
We need more toilet paper.
Make me feel younger. Those of you who are in the chat, where do you feel with this? Everybody's being really quiet in the chat tonight. Where do you feel on this? Are you seeing or feeling what we're talking about? Am I off on a deep end tonight? I feel like I am, but that's okay.
And I think that, even for some, as I've talked to people in the last 6 months, and that coming out of that 2020, the idea was, their motivation was, we want to build a successful business, or we wanted to, as more people were getting exposed to Dave Ramsey, we're wanting to pay off debt, or we're wanting to put money away. There were a variety of different little motivational factors that fit in. And of course, 2020 really, I think, slapped everyone up alongside the head to the point where, even though, as you were saying, there was a consistent paycheck for most of us if we filled out the paperwork type of thing, we still, our motivations were just all put helter-skelter for a period of time. And as we come into the new year, I don't even know today. I mean, a few years ago, the goal was to run a successful business that would, motivation was to create a business that basically would give us a comfortable, a part-time business where I had my time to do other things that I wanted to, but it would give us a comfortable enough income so that we didn't have to sit there and be watching every nickel and every dime that rolled through on the DJ side of it. That's not even, I mean, the closest as I was thinking about what my motivation is today to continue to DJ. And I really think it is that I have 3 more children, and Michael's just going to be headed off to college this fall. But Michael's doing enough shows right now where that's paying for his college. He's gotten enough experience now. He's off doing events himself. And I start thinking back, and it's like, that's a motivator to me to continue to go out and do things, keep the name out there, because people call and are like, hey, we'd love to have you do our wedding. It's like, great, my price is here, but I have this option of my son who is not as much experience, but he's going to be a little cheaper. And they're like, yeah, we'll take him. Okay, I'm good. So if I can basically continue to do this for the next, I've got my youngest is going to be in 6th grade. I do this for another 8 years, 9 years. They'll be in or through college by that time. And that might be, my motivating factor for the next number of years. Over, income thing is, I've got my other businesses that can provide enough income. So it's not like I have to do the DJ thing anymore if I didn't want to. So I just, the motivation has changed on that.
Dan, you are the only one of the three of us that actually works a day job that is not connected to the DJ business in some way, not connected to the internet business, because some of John's other stuff is still making the videos like he does, all that kind of stuff. Both from your point of view, what you saw this past year, in what your perspective on this is, and other people like you've maybe talked to who are part-time DJs and have a day job. What's the view there?
You mean what comes down to be the motivation to keep going?
How do you see it? Like, what's your motivation? What's motivation of other people you've talked to that are in the same place that you're seeing? Has it changed from before 2020 to after 2020? All that kind of stuff. Like, are you still in the same spot you were before, doing it for the same reasons? Are people like your friends who do it like you do, are they still in the same spot, or has it changed?
Well, for me, it's definitely it's the same. My motivation is the fact that I like to help people. I like to get to meet people. This is my opportunity to be out and about with adults, and and just having a good time, and I get to create the party. And so even when I have those frustrating nights, it's still that moment of kind of playing puppeteer and making things happen and helping the night go along. And that high I get from being out and about and working and different things, and then getting the feedback afterwards that what I just poured X amount of hours into, they're ecstatic about, and even on a night that's rough, like it still creates that satisfaction when it's all said and done, because I've gotten to witness. My big thing is weddings. I've gotten to witness these two, this man and woman, which is typically what I've been working with, come together and create a union. And so it's been one of those things where it makes it cool just to kind of be a part of it. Like, that's, in some ways, that's almost, I love just being at weddings, even if I could just be like a fly on the wall type of thing, just to see it and be a part of it. So a lot of my motivation has continued to stay the same. Now, you mentioned about some of the other ones. One thought that came to mind as I'm saying that, my motivation, I think, is a little bit different with my Monday to Friday job than it is for some others. I think for a lot of people, their Monday to Friday job became their career that they wanted to have. And as a result, the DJing on the side became a hobby that suddenly made money. And then there was motivation to keep it going. And maybe it's money, maybe it's other things that have kind of led to it, but it's still that Monday to Friday tends to be more the career that they've always wanted. That was not the case for me. Growing up, actually, when I got into high school, I started working in radio. When I got out I went to college for radio. I worked in radio for a little bit. DJing kind of was what I wanted to do for a career, but I didn't know that there were actually DJs who did it full time. Like, there was nobody locally to me that was doing that. Everybody had the day job and was doing it part time. So I thought, well, that can't happen. So when my radio career just kind of went, I decided it was time to go a different direction. And that's when I went and did my teaching thing, because I liked working with people, and I liked working with kids and that kind of thing. So it gave an opportunity for me to do that. But DJing was still that first thing. and it still has continued to be. It's that thing that I get the most passion about, really. Now I do have friends of mine that are kind of been in that situation where, kind of like what John is saying, they've had some time off, they've been okay with it. They realized that in the year and a half that they didn't really have that many events, if any, that they were okay, that it wasn't, oh my gosh. And so as a result, they've kind of started to evaluate and pull back on that. And so rather than taking 3 or 4 in a month, they're now going, you know what, 2 a month is plenty. And now I still have 2 weekends to do whatever I'm going to do. So there's definitely been kind of that reevaluation of, I don't want to say maybe the reevaluation of the motivation, but the reevaluation of the importance of where DJing stands for them.
Is there a difference between motivation and importance? Because to me, they're kind of the same thing in a way, I guess. Maybe it isn't. So give me your thought on that. I don't know. I'll think about it too.
I think priority.
Priority is kind of a difference. I see motivation as the reason why we do it, and I see importance as where it ranks prior to deciding what we need to do to get there. So for example, for me, I love being out on the weekends, and I love being at the events. Even as much as I hate setup and tear down, it's still a part of it, and I get to be at it and do it. And so it becomes an important piece to it. And so my motivation then is the pieces that get me there.
I can see that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take.
I was just thinking, like, you're talking about getting out on the weekends. I'm like, Dan, you are the eternal college student, aren't you? you're. It's like, oh, it's the weekend, man. Classes are over. Let's party.
Well, I joked when I said, I get to see adults, but I have my coworkers, and don't get me wrong, I love them, and we hang out and
outnumbered,
different things. But yeah, we're totally outnumbered.
Yeah.
And so, like, on the weekends, I get to talk to venue owners, I get to talk to photographers and videographers and florists when they're setting up, and it's like people that have become my friends through this industry that we share in common, and I get to run into them at an event, so we get to chit chat, we get to talk about their life and what's going on, and it's kind of funny. Like, I teach in a district. My boss, my superintendent, owns a wedding venue that I am at often. I mean, we're talking like I'm one of the top 3 on the referral list. So when I go, it was very interesting the first couple of times. And finally, I actually had the conversation. Do I call you this or do I call you this? And he said, well, when we're here. I said, at school, I know exactly what I call you. And he goes, no. And he's like, call me by my first name. And so we talk like we're friends, and it becomes very interesting. Then also when I get to school and I have my coworkers are like, and I'm like, I just keep my mouth shut. Like, I'm just like,
you don't want to. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's one of those things where that friendship is also, kind of one of those things where I look forward to. I don't want to say that's my motivation for DJing, but it is definitely my motivation for certain places that I go.
Sure.
Right.
I think let's kind of wrap up here as we're getting close. Motivation for going to a DJ convention. We've got in 2 weeks we've got DJ Expo. What would be your motivation for going? And this should be for those of you who just watch us occasionally. You may not get this, and I can pretty much guess what each one of us are going to say. MJ, we'll let you go second. I want to have Dan.
I want to hear your guesses.
I want to hear the guesses first too.
Or just at least after we say it, then you go, yeah, that's what I was saying. Or not.
I'll go through.
Yeah.
MJ's going. He's going to go and see if there's anything new, and if he can maybe talk to a couple of people from either Pioneer or Denon or some company like that. Other than that, the rest, the friends and such, he likes to see them, and there you are, okay, and that's not the huge motivating factor for him. The educational content's not a huge motivating factor for him. Dan his more motivating factor would be a combination of seeing people that he hasn't seen for a while, and going and getting free stuff in the exhibit hall, and going and getting sitting in on some of the educational things to see if there's anything kind of new out there that he can implement into his business. and of course, seeing friends and things are very important too. But though the educational side is more important to Dan to hit these shows, and this is his time to learn a little bit during the off season. And for myself, my thought on this is, with my personal motivation to go to these things, seeing new gear and things, those ships have sailed. MJ does a nice job with that. It's all about seeing friends and family. And in this case, it's mainly seeing our DJNTV family. That's the only motivation of going to events pretty much anymore. So how far off am I, guys?
Order was wrong.
Okay.
But yeah. For me, it comes down to seeing friends. That is the first one, seeing them face to face and giving hugs and handshakes and that kind of thing, and just kind of breaking bread. And then second is, and it's a very close second, is the education standpoint. I love sitting in the seminars. I love listening to ideas. I do not think of myself very much as a creative person. That's one of the things I personally think I struggle at. And so as a result, to hear what other people have the ability to create and are willing to share and allow us to steal, beg, borrow, and all that other stuff, I think it's awesome. And the free stuff is just the perk.
Sure. Put that third. Sure.
John, I think one of your reasons you left out for you was what's that hoagie place you like?
Oh, White
House.
Or White House substitute.
Yeah. For me, I was just going to make a joke and go, no, the real reason I go to the expo is to get to hang out with DJ Pearly, because I have such a crush on her.
Oh, yeah, yep.
She's a cutie, and it's like, well, I actually seen her other places, but, anytime I get to, stand close to her. No.
She's going to, accidentally come across this video and go,
without the restraining order.
Security, keep an eye out for this guy.
Well, I'm not going, so she doesn't have to worry about it. But she's very talented, very motivated. I always think she's also very intelligent. Like I've heard her speak twice, and I'm blown away by her intelligence. But for me, speaking of gear, pay attention to Disc Jockey News tomorrow morning. There's a gear. I'm putting a gear video out, new gear. So pay attention to that. But for me, my motivating factor for going a lot of it is twofold. It's exposure in my DJing. So when I get to DJ for Denon, or at any other place, that is a big thing for me, because in my world, DJing is what you do. That's what it's not necessarily education, but it's that exposure, getting opportunities for exposure, but also networking for exposure reasons, networking with other Denon people, networking with Pioneer people, networking with people at this party, people at that party, to get more exposure. That's kind of like my biggest motivating factor about the expo, is all about, it takes my business to a national stage instantly. So
there we are.
That sounds really shallow, doesn't it?
No, but that's the reality of the situation.
And fame.
Different people have different motivations. We all can go to as an example, we all can go to Expo, and we all can enjoy ourselves and be part of it. But there's, what gets one person out of bed in the morning isn't the same as what gets another person out of bed in the morning, and you each got to find your own thing and make it happen. Make it yours.
That I get up in the afternoon, is that the same?
Yeah, well, it's morning somewhere, so let's just go with that. Okay,
it's morning somewhere.
You're just on Hawaii time, okay?
There you go.
All right, let's see. Howie's up next, gang, and he's got some information about what's coming up at DJ Expo with the DJNTV event. So go to djntv.com/chill and join Howie and the gang tonight. They'll be discussing the show. And if you didn't catch it tonight, we'll be putting it up. I think Wednesday night is when we've got it slated to go up live on all the other channels. So you can watch it on YouTube and Facebook. That'll be going up earlier in the evening. Are you on Wednesday night, MJ?
We're supposed to be, but I just got a message that the person who's coming on to talk about Serato may not be able to make it. So you're going to have to stay tuned. I apologize. We're definitely going to cover Serato, but we may be switching up and covering something else this week, or moving it to 3 shows next month. I don't know. But stay tuned, and I apologize. Like I said, this is kind of out of our hands. Something came up with that person really big. So.
And then tomorrow night, Ben Stowe will be in, and we're going to actually talk some of our lighting things that we're going to be doing here on July 17th. When we're going to do our lighting training, we're going to move that to tomorrow night with Ben Stowe, and he's going to, we're going to have Brian, Howie, Ben, and myself, and we're going to look at some different things with lighting and a few tips and tricks and ideas and such when it comes to using the iPad for controlling, and we're going to cover a lot of things. And then after we're done with the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe slot, then Brian and Jay will be coming on at 10 o'clock Eastern for their weekly recording of their music show.
Nice.
And I think that's it. We got to jump. Howie's getting ready in the wings.
Yeah. Just an extra plug for Howie. It's also going to be talking about tips, tricks, advice, ways to get there, like things to do, places to eat. Like it's a little kind of like we've done this sometimes in the past, but this is going to be a bigger group, just all talking about some ideas and ways to help yourself. Again, DJNTV.com/chill is the where you want to go for that. So thank you very much for taking time out of your night. Hopefully you're motivated to come back again next week and join us, and we'll have a great night. See you guys.
Bye-bye.